If you're a software engineer, you've been there. You're finally relaxing after a long day and you get paged. Something's broken. Are the servers down? Is the database slow? Is there a bug in the latest deployment? Now the whole team is panicked, going from tool to tool and person to person to troubleshoot the problem. That won't happen if you get New Relic. New Relic brings together 16 monitoring tools so teams can see across the entire stack from one place. More importantly, with New Relic, you can pinpoint problems down to the line of code to fix problems more quickly. That's why more than 14,000 companies, including DoorDash, GitHub, and Epic Games, use New Relic to debug and improve their software. The next late night call is just waiting to happen. Get New Relic before it does. You can get the whole New Relic platform and 100 gigs of data free forever. No credit card required. Just visit newrelic.com/cloudcast. That's newrelic.com/cloudcast.
Cloudcast Media presents from the massive studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the Cloudcast with Aaron Delp and Brian Gracely, bringing you the best of cloud computing from around the world.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Cloudcast. We're coming to you live from our massive Cloudcast studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm going to jump right into Cloud News of the Week. We've got some really good articles this week. First up is Bessemer Ventures and their State of the Cloud for 2022 report. I really enjoyed this article. If you have a chance, go take a look at this one in the show notes. Lots and lots of data. And it was really interesting as well because this is all about SaaS services and also not just the continued growth of them, but also how we've seen a little bit of a drop in SaaS and SaaS funding, even though the largest SaaS companies have continued to do well. And now we're starting to see all of that pick back up. And it's a good read to see how they measured all of this and how they kind of go through it. And it's a little bit of, get back to basics, if you will. And of course, it looks at all of the big SaaS companies that are out there. And it also extrapolates some really interesting trends and some predictions into where is the SaaS market going. One is indirect monetization, for instance, and what does that mean? And what does that mean for the future of SaaS? It also goes even into regionals as well. So this one just does not cover Silicon Valley firms like a lot of these reports typically do. So definitely worth checking out. For our second article, we have an interesting, I like these journey articles, and this is specifically about architectures, and this is about Airbnb, how Airbnb went from a monolith up until about 2017 timeframe, and then they took 3 years to break that monolith into microservices, and then how the microservices actually started to hinder the growth of the business because of the complexity and all of the loose couplings that were in the business. So then they went to something they called micro plus macro services, and they rolled that out in 2020, and they continued to use that to present. I really liked this article because we see lots about the journey from monolith to microservices, but then we don't see what happens afterwards and what might be an even better fit for the next stage. So this article was really fascinating of why did they do it? Once they got to microservices, what did they see as for further improving on? And, I'll just give a little bit of away when we talk about some of these macros. It's how do they take some of the things and make them global services, if you will, like a central data aggregator, for instance. But then how do they and also break the departments down as well and the teams? And so they get some that will be developing across macro services and some that will be developing microservices. I thought it was a really good journey and definitely some that's worth a read. It's not too long of a read, but it's worth checking out. And of course, that is in the show notes. And for our last one, we just wanted to do some funding announcements. Both Cloudcast alumni. So Observe raised $70 million in a Series A2 not a B round, but an A2 round. And then Avon also raised $210 million on a Series D, and their valuation is up to about $3 billion now. So with that, I'm going to close out Cloud News of the Week. And coming up after the break, we have Danny Fields, CTO and EVP at Avalara, talking about optimizing cloud-native operations.
Today's show is sponsored by Spot by NetApp, providing a comprehensive suite of CloudOps tools that makes it easy to deliver continuously optimized and reliable infrastructure at the lowest possible cost. Imagine automating your infrastructure to proactively meet the needs of your applications. Imagine leveraging the latest in machine learning and automation to scale your infrastructure using the most efficient mix of instances and pricing models. Imagine running reliable applications, cutting cloud costs significantly, and making life easier for DevOps teams. From cloud cost management to infrastructure automation, Spot ensures you maximize your cloud investment. The end result is simply more cloud at less cost. Discover how the most innovative companies are automating, simplifying, and optimizing their cloud infrastructure with Spot by NetApp by going to spot.io/cloudcast to find more information, request a demo, or start a free trial today. That's spot.io/cloudcast. Today's show is sponsored by CloudZero. For software-driven companies focused on growing margins, CloudZero is the only cloud cost intelligence platform that puts engineering in control by connecting technical decisions to business results. By analyzing cloud services like AWS and Snowflake, CloudZero provides real-time cost insights that help you maximize margins. Engineering teams can answer critical questions like, who are my most expensive customers? How much does this specific feature cost our business? What's the cost impact of re-architecting this application? With cost anomaly alerts via Slack, product-specific data views, and granular engineering context that makes it easy to investigate any cost, CloudZero is your complete cloud cost intelligence platform, connecting the dots between high-level trends and individual line items. Join companies like Drift, Rapid7, and SeatGeek by visiting cloudzero.com/cloudcast to get started today. That's cloudzero.com/cloudcast. And we're back. And folks, one of the things that we talk a lot about is, how the cloud is delivered. We talk a lot about technologies and so forth. But one of the things that I don't know that we've ever really done, we've talked about it quite a bit, is really digging into, so much of how we interact with the cloud these days is through SaaS services. And SaaS services tend to make up all sorts of aspects of how we do our day-to-day lives, how our businesses interact. But we haven't really spent a lot of time going, how are they delivered? How do they scale? How do companies deliver these fantastic services at scale, but also be responsive to customers and deal with all the nuances that those things have? And so today we're very, very excited to dig into that a little bit more. And we're going to do that today with Danny Fields, who is CTO and Executive Vice President at Avalara. Avalara, one of the really leading deliverers of SaaS services for tax guidance and tax compliance and tax services. So, Danny, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Hi, Brian. It's great to be here.
We were joking around with the show. You have a fantastic Irish accent. Tell us a little about where you're at today. Actually, let's do this. Give us a little bit about your background, because your background is really rich in terms of breadth of types of engineering roles that you've held, both in terms of software and in the cloud. But give us a little bit of your background, and then obviously, where you focus your time these days at Avalara.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Will do. So I'm living at the moment in the Bay Area in California, and I am Irish, and I started my career in Dublin in Ireland way back in 1990, and I started working for a small company that some of you may know. It's called Oracle. And back then, there was no cloud. All software that was delivered on premise. So back in 1990, I was a developer developing networking software for the Oracle database. And over the years, I moved through a few different companies. I spent a total of 22 years at Oracle, and I was there twice. I left Oracle after my first 17-year stint to go to one of the very first cloud companies called Right Now Technologies. And Right Now was a pioneer in SaaS software. Back when I joined, Right Now, when you looked up who they were competing with Salesforce, with SuccessFactors, with NetSuite, and they were one of the leading producers of software for call centers, for support centers. And at that time, I had moved to the United States, and right now was headquartered in Bozeman in Montana. So I split my time between the Bay Area and Montana.
Nice.
And during the time there, oh, sorry, Brian?
Oh, that's nice. That's a beautiful part of the world.
It's an amazing place. They have great outdoor activities. It's beautiful. And I learned how to ski and fly fish and do lots of wonderful outdoor activities there. It was an amazing experience. But one of the most amazing experiences I had there from a technology and career point of view was to learn all about the cloud. Back then, there was no public cloud, there was no AWS, there was no GCP, there was no Azure. And we had to run our cloud software in our own data centers and service enterprise-grade customers. And after 5 years at Right Now Technologies, something very interesting happened. Oracle bought the company, and I went back into Oracle. And when I went back into Oracle, Oracle was becoming a cloud company. It had started its transition from on-premise to the cloud, and Right Now brought nearly 2,000 enterprise-grade customers. And Oracle only had a small number of cloud customers on its own. So we were really the first product or solution within Oracle to have so many enterprise-grade customers, and the rest of the company learned from us. So I was right there at the beginning of Oracle's cloud journey. And I moved on from Oracle about 5 years later and went to a security company, and I learned all about how to secure mobile devices. 7 out of 10 of all the prime ministers and presidents all around the world have their mobile devices secured by the software that I built in my previous company. And then when I came to Avalara 4 years ago, I'm here approximately 4 years, I was able to bring all of that expertise and background to Avalara. The expertise from Right Now Technologies, where I learned all about cloud, the expertise from Oracle, who is a big enterprise-grade SaaS company, and the expertise from the security company, Mobile Iron, where I learned all about security. So those three things I was able to bring to Oracle or to Avalara based on my nearly 30-year journey.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's for a lot of people listening, I'm sure they've been through at least part of that journey in working for companies who originated out of data centers, probably were serving both their internal customers but external customers, dealing with what security looked like at scale, and so no, that's fantastic. I mentioned, so it's, we're here in April. I think we may end up publishing this show in May, but, for a lot of people, April is tax month. It's when we sort of dread having to do our taxes. Avalara, you guys live and breathe, tax compliance, which for businesses is a, 24/7, 365 world. Kind of give me a sense of the scope of what Avalara delivers, and then I want to dive in a little bit about how you do that. Something that seems very complicated, feels like something you probably have to customize a lot, but then how you'll do that as a SaaS. But first off, give us a sense of what does tax compliance mean for enterprise companies, and sort of the scope of how much you get involved with people's day-to-day business.
That's a great question. We've been around as a company since 2004. And most of your listeners will never have heard about Avalara. And Avalara is there behind the scenes, and most of your listeners may have touched and used Avalara multiple times today on the day that they listen to this. We're behind marketplaces, point of sale systems, ERP systems. If you think about it, when you buy something in a coffee shop, you're paying tax. When you buy something online through a marketplace, you're paying tax. When one company sells something to another company and they send an invoice, taxes is being charged. Tax has been around for over 5,000 years. It was invented by the Egyptians, and we're solving this indirect tax problem. Up until now, tax was always calculated and processed manually. And we think that's absurd. We think that automation is the way of the future, and businesses need to automate their tax and compliance services. And that's what Avalara is doing. And we're a global company. We're operating in multiple countries around the world. And we're focused on serving our customers, and we're focused on automation, solving the tax problem. And tax is very, very complicated. You might think there's only one tax rate for a particular state. There are many.
Right.
If you look at the United States alone, there are over 13,000 sales and use tax jurisdictions. If you look at a simple product like orange juice, there are over 300 different ways to tax orange juice in the United States. And then if you look at something like a bagel in certain locations around the United States, a bagel can be taxed in different ways. You can take the bagel out of the store and it's taxed one way, or if the bagel is toasted, or if you consume it on the premises, it may be taxed another way. And back in 2018, there was a famous decision by the Supreme Court, the Wayfair decision, and that meant that states could now impose sales tax obligations on remote sellers. So if you were selling into a state, the states are now allowed to require the sellers to collect sales tax. So Avalara is working with companies and sellers all around the world to simplify and automate this really complex problem.
Yeah, no, I know from talking to other friends in the industry, especially some, our friend Rodrigo Flores, who's over at, had run Accenture Cloud for a long time. He's now at IBM, but he would tell us all the time, all you guys talk about technology with cloud and all this stuff. He goes, at some point you'll wade into taxes and you'll realize where the really, really complicated stuff is with cloud. And so we've sort of come full circle. It's it's something we all deal with every day, and being able to make it simpler is obviously important to kind of everybody involved, whether it's the business or the end users or the people in between. I want to talk a little bit about delivering SaaS services. So let's start, kind of at the most basic things. You talked about earlier in your career, when you were first delivering sort of SaaS services, you were doing it out of the data center. Walk us through sort of, kind of the evolution from, I have software that I deliver in a data center. Obviously, we all kind of know, some of the automation, the scalability, the on-demand things that I can get, from, say, the public cloud now that I, was hard to do in your data center. But what are some of the other just kind of real building block, fundamental things you have to think about when you start delivering software as a SaaS, especially in today's world where people, want to pay for it in certain ways, they want it to scale in certain ways? Like, what are the fundamentals of SaaS that I have to think about from an operations perspective?
That's another great question, Brian. When I started back in Oracle way back in the early 90s, we were delivering software on floppy disk. My kids don't know what a floppy disk is.
No,
if I showed it to
it's just a save icon in certain programs.
Exactly. They'd have no idea what the thing is for. Or we also delivered software on 1/4-inch cartridge tape. If I showed that to my kids, it's the size of a brick. They wouldn't know what that is either. So back then, we were delivering on-premise software that way. We would build the software, stick it on some form of media, and then ship it off by courier to a customer. Avalara started its journey as a company back in 2004, and we were born in the cloud. And back in 2004, our first service ran on a server in one of our founders' houses, in a bedroom, on a server under a bed, under his daughter's bed. And that's how our SaaS solution ran way back in 2004. And then we progressed. We moved it from being under a bed into another founder's garage. And we had a rack of servers running in a garage. And we had an internet cable coming in along the sidewalk into the garage. And you can imagine all of the reliability issues that could have happened. What happened if the power went out in the garage? What happened if the gardener would have cut the cable coming in along the sidewalk? We moved from the garage into a co-located data center in Seattle. So it's a data center managed by a third party. And in 2018, we moved into AWS. So we did a lift and shift into AWS. And that's when I joined the company. And as we were lifting and shifting into AWS, what I saw was that people had this expectation that once you go into a public cloud, for free, you get scalability, reliability, performance, and security. And you don't get it all for free.
Right.
Literally, what you're doing is, instead of running your software on your servers in your data center, now you're giving that responsibility over to the third party, whether it's Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or somebody else. And now you're running in their data center. They're managing the power, they're managing the building, they're managing the servers. But your application still runs the way it used to run before you did that lift and shift. So since 2018, we now have been taking advantage of all of the services available in AWS, and we've since moved into GCP, and we're using Azure as well. And we're able to now push buttons, spin up databases, spin up services that we can pay for and use inside of those clouds. We don't have to manually install a database anymore. We can use a service that's provided by the cloud provider. We can now choose to run our software on multiple servers. So if there's a hardware failure, we now have spent the last 4 years making sure that our software can run across multiple servers, multiple data centers, multiple regions. With the SaaS solution that we provide, we have to always be on. We have to be reliable. So we need to make sure that if there is a hardware failure or a data center failure or a multi-data center failure, we can survive in other locations around the world. We also have to think about performance. And sometimes we need to run our software near to our customers' location in order to reduce internet round trip time. So location is important. So all of those things we can do now easily inside of a public cloud, but we have to do work in the development teams to turn all of that on. Again, we have to change our software to run across multiple machines, multiple data centers. We have to load balance traffic. We have to monitor what's going on from a security point of view. We can turn on services and tools that are available inside of the public cloud to help secure our systems. So that the public clouds today enable us to move much, much faster and provide much more robust solutions than we could have on our own many years ago.
Yeah, no, and it sounds like you've really kind of gone through, all of the things that, in a lot of cases, people sort of talk about, in theory, right? I'm going to go from lift and shifting from data center to the cloud. I'm going to deploy things across multiple cloud environments, and there's reasons for doing that. You move from, manually running your own databases and infrastructure to getting those on demand. I mean, you've sort of lived through all the transitions, for sort of app modernization into the cloud. It's interesting to hear, that in reality. I'm curious. So now you've got this foundation that's in place that lets you, deliver things, different, better than you did before, more automated. You've worked through security issues and availability issues, and now we get to the actual stuff that Avalara delivers, which is of value to your customers. How does an application team? So, you talked about tax being a very, very complicated use case, if you will, right? Or giant application, if you will. SaaS, people traditionally tend to think about SaaS as being this thing that's, for the most part, pretty common. Like my experience in SaaS should be very similar to another customer's with a certain given number of tweaks. How do you think about, how does your application teams think about doing that when, one customer is going to be in certain countries, another customer is going to be in other countries or other industries? How do you manage the sort of, desire to deliver a consistent service with your customers wanting it to be, super tuned to their uniqueness? That's got to be an interesting balance.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very good question. It's a very perceptive question. We're building a planet scale solution, and that's our big, hairy, audacious goal. We're building a global compliance cloud. So compliance is very, very complicated, right? There are over 200 countries in the world, so many, many tax jurisdictions. There are many, many different industries. And over the years, we've realized that this is just like a really complicated Rubik's Cube. And at our recent developer conference, we used a Rubik's Cube to explain this to our end users. There are so many different permutations in compliance. we're trying to solve a really, really complex problem. Most SaaS companies that you can name have one or two or three use cases that they're solving for. We're solving for many, many dozens.
Yeah.
And the solutions that we're building actually have common themes and use cases that go across different locations in different countries. For example, we're calculating tax real time in different countries around the world. So the method to calculate tax is the same. The rates and the rules and location information might be different for different countries.
Sure.
When we're helping companies file tax returns in an automated way, we're adding up information. We're putting information onto a tax form. We're sending the form back to the jurisdiction. So some of those activities or tasks are common across different locations and different industries. So what we're doing at the moment is we've been changing our applications to make them truly global. We're building solutions to calculate tax on a planet scale. And we're able to feed into our tax calculation engine different rates and different rules for different locations on the planet. The same when it comes to filing a tax return. We're creating a solution that in theory will work anywhere in the world. Again, we just feed in different tax forms, different rules, and the processes might be slightly different in different locations, but the technology can be reused and shared across industries and locations. The same when it comes to registering a business with a jurisdiction. In the US, you might register a company or a business one way. In Europe, you may do it another way. But if you look at the actual tasks involved, a lot of tasks are common between both locations. And the software we're building, instead of building a solution that's US specific or a solution that's specific to a European country, we're trying to build a solution that will work globally. So our goal inside of Avalara Engineering is to build planet scale solutions that will work all over the world, instead of building solutions specific to a particular industry or a solution particular to a particular country or location in the world.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I have to imagine that modularity is sort of crucial to your being able to scale and be successful. It's good to be able to understand that. I have to imagine, as with any engineering organization, with any product organization, you have a finite amount of resources to go, tackle, a laundry list, sort of a feature list, a roadmap that's, always seems like it's 3 or 4 times as big. As you get into the cloud, as you've now, you're into the cloud, you've adapted to, make the applications work in the cloud. Do you take an approach that sort of says, look, we're going to sort of use, sort of cloud first tools? What I'm getting at is there's got to be a trade-off in which you say, do I hire people to help me run databases, or do I help me, build applications? Do you end up, when you're in the cloud, especially if you're delivering a SaaS service and you're doing it at scale, do you almost have to be cloud first in terms of adopting the local native capabilities of that cloud before you ever think about, trying to do something, yourself in which you run? Is that become the trade-off so that you can put more resources towards building applications and driving value?
That's a fantastic question. Every quarter we have a planning event where we're making those trade-offs and we're looking at the choices in front of us. We are a cloud-first company. We are a technology company, by the way.
Sure.
When people look at Avalara on the outside, they might look at us as a tax company, a compliance company. We're not. We're really a technology company that is solving the compliance problem for our customers. And we're using content from all over the world, tax content, to do that. And we're truly cloud native. So when we're building solutions and when we go into every quarter and into every 2-week sprint, we are making those trade-offs. We're looking at features and products that our product management team are asking us to build. And we're also looking at how we run and operate our cloud at this global scale that I've been talking about. So we may have to make infrastructure changes on the back end. We may have to change our database service. We may have to break up a monolithic service into smaller, more loosely coupled services, and so on. We're doing both, right? Every quarter, making trade-offs to spend some of our capacity on building new functionality, some of our capacity on making our infrastructure better, some of our capacity will be focused on security, some of our capacity will be focused on efficiency, where we're serving customers inside of Avalara and outside of Avalara. Outside of Avalara, companies will integrate with us, for example, to calculate tax. You'll call our APIs, so you'll have an integration into Avalara to do tax calculation. But also we're allowing customers to file tax returns on their own, or we're also filing tax returns for them on their behalf. And we have a huge focus on making sure that the tools and the applications that we're using internally to file tax returns and the tools and the applications that we're providing our customers work in the most efficient and automated way. So we're always focused on efficiency as well. So to answer your question, every quarter we are making those trade-offs and we're balancing new things, innovation versus infrastructure, and making sure our cloud technologies are truly planet scale and work the best way possible versus security versus efficiency and so on.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to hear how you kind of work through that, because again, the key to product management is always, managing a finite number of resources and figuring out a good methodology for trade-offs. I think you've lived through a lot of these changes, a lot of these transitions. For our audience, some of them are just coming into the industry, so they're beginning to be in cloud. Some of them are living through these transitions. If you could give folks any sort of advice about maybe things you wish you knew back in 2018 when you were transitioning to the cloud, or now that you're in the cloud and you're doing operations at scale, what are some pieces of advice or things you wish you knew that maybe would have made things easier, or would have been a foundational thing you'd pass along to newer people in this space?
One of the things I've learned, and I touched on this a few minutes ago, as we made our transition into public cloud starting in 2018, I guess I didn't realize that it would take a certain amount of time really to make our applications work really, really well on a planet scale within these public clouds. We've had to put in a lot of effort to make sure we are really resilient and we perform well and we're secure. And again, when you move into the public cloud, the marketing hype suggests you're going to get all of that for free, and you don't. You have to make a significant investment to do that. So that's one learning I've had along the ways. I guess I knew I would have to do that back in 2018. I guess over the last 4 years, looking back, I just didn't realize how much work is involved in doing all of that. And I think, to answer your question, you approach this question different ways depending on your role and where you work within the engineering team. So as a developer, as a leader in the engineering team, I have to think about scalability, performance, reliability, security, and so on. I might be working in the cloud operations team. I might be a reliability engineer. And if I'm beginning my journey, if I'm beginning my career, one of the pieces of advice I would give is learn different public clouds. There are certifications available from different learning platforms. Udemy is a great platform. We use it inside of Avalara, and our engineers are encouraged to spend time getting certifications on different technologies on different public clouds. And there are so many different services and clouds out there that we're all using, that every SaaS company is using. If you're in the reliability engineering team, there's an expectation that you know all of this stuff. And learning platforms like Udemy are great to go get up to speed. So that would just be a pointer I would give to people.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I know we've worked with a number of the different cloud training partners, and they're all ramping up so quickly to try and make sure that you can be AWS certified and Google and Azure and Kubernetes and Linux. And there's just so many things to learn. So no, that's fantastic advice. It's good to, again, it's good to sort of, get some reality to, like you said, these things take sometimes longer than you expect. You have to go in there with your eyes wide open and, probably more than anything, just, be open to learning, be willing to learning, and sort of, constantly be building up your sort of learning curve, calluses, if you will, because it is a big change to get from software to being in the cloud to SaaS and so forth. Danny, I want to thank you so much for the time today. We've taken a lot of your time. I know you're very, very busy, but thank you for educating our audience. We really appreciate your lessons learned, your willingness to share with us. If people want to pick your brain, obviously, if they have tax needs, they should be giving you guys a call at Avalara. But if folks want to pick your brain, are you do you ever open to kind of giving advice to people or having them reach out to you via Twitter or some other way?
Oh, absolutely. The best way to get me is by email or through LinkedIn, and I would love to share everything that we're doing inside of Avalara with anybody who would love to know. I reach out all the time to people in my network that I've come to know over the years, and there are so many people out there who have helped me and who will always explain to me what they're doing inside of their company, and it's a great way to learn. It's reaching out to people in your network. It's a great resource. So anybody listening to this, if you would like to learn more about what we're doing inside of Avalara or our experience with any of the public cloud vendors, feel free to reach out to me through LinkedIn or through email.
Great. No, that's great. We love that mindset. That's very much how we build the community around Cloudcast, and we know that people are always eager to learn, and so it's great to have people that are willing to to share some things. And like you said, you're always learning from people. Somebody always knows a little more than you might. So that's great, folks. With that, I want to thank Danny for his time today on behalf of Aaron and myself. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for telling a friend. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with other members of the Cloudcast community. And so with that, we're going to wrap it up, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Cloudcast. Please visit thecloudcast.net to find more shows, show notes, videos, and everything social media.